It was a quiet Friday evening, the kind of night that made you feel like nothing unusual could happen. My parents had gone out for dinner with family friends, leaving me alone in the house. This wasn't anything new. They'd been doing it more often now that I was old enough to stay by myself, and honestly, I didn't mind. The solitude was a welcome break. I spent the evening the way most teenagers would, relaxing on the couch with my headphones on, scrolling through social media, and avoiding the homework that sat untouched on my desk. The hours passed uneventfully. The house was filled with the familiar hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the old floorboards. Around 7, the doorbell rang. I paused my music and sat up, a bit surprised by the sound, but not alarmed. My mom often forgot to mention deliveries, and packages showing up out of the blue wasn't exactly uncommon in our household. She was always ordering random things online, whether it was kitchen gadgets, decor she claimed we needed, or something else she found in one of her late-night shopping sprees. I figured this was just another one of her impulse purchases. I made my way to the door, glancing through the peephole before opening it. A delivery worker stood on the porch, holding a medium-sized box. He looked like every other delivery person I'd seen. Uniform neatly pressed, company logo on the jacket, cap pulled low over his face. His posture was relaxed, and his eyes flickered briefly to the street, like he was distracted by something in the distance. Without thinking much about it, I unlocked the door and opened it a crack. "Hi, thanks," I said, reaching for the box. "Delivery for your parents?" he asked, his tone polite and businesslike. "Nice night out, huh?" "Yeah, it's theirs," I replied casually, grabbing the box as he handed it over. He gave a faint nod and smiled, not a wide or unsettling smile, just a standard, courteous expression, and turned to head back toward the street. I closed the door behind me, locking it out of habit, and set the box on the kitchen counter. It wasn't until a few minutes later, when I absent-mindedly decided to open it, that I realized something was strange. The box was completely empty. I stared at it for a moment, confused, but not overly concerned. Mistakes happened, I thought. I shrugged it off, deciding I'd mention it to my mom when she got home. The rest of the evening passed quietly, but something about the empty box stayed in the back of my mind. I wasn't worried, more confused than anything else. It was odd, sure, but mistakes happened all the time with deliveries. My parents had dealt with missing or wrong items plenty of times, and it was usually nothing more than an annoying hiccup. Still, I couldn't help but glance at the box every now and then as I went about my night. I didn't mention it to anyone. My friends wouldn't care, and my parents wouldn't be home until late. Instead, I tried to distract myself by putting my headphones back on and sinking into the comforting noise of my playlist. Music had a way of smoothing out the edges of everything, turning the strange into something manageable. But even with the songs blaring in my ears, the house felt different. It was the kind of feeling you couldn't put into words, like a shift in the air, or the quiet pressing down harder than it should. I paused my music and wandered into the kitchen, half thinking I'd find something to snack on. The box was still sitting there, untouched, like it was waiting for me. I opened it again, hoping maybe I'd missed something the first time. But it was still empty, and this time, the silence felt louder as I stared into it. I shook my head and muttered to myself, "This is ridiculous," before shutting the lid and sliding it off to the side. That's when I heard the sound, a faint knock. Not at the front door, but at the window. I froze, my heart skipping a beat. It wasn't loud, barely audible, but it was there. My pulse quickened as I glanced toward the living room, half expecting to see someone standing outside. The window was dark, and the porch light illuminated nothing but the empty front yard. Probably just the wind, I whispered under my breath, though my voice sounded less convincing than I hoped. I checked my phone, looking for distractions, but the screen was empty. No messages, no notifications, no reassurances. The knock came again, louder this time. Not frantic, but deliberate. My stomach churned as I set my phone down and crept toward the window, my steps careful and quiet. With trembling fingers, I nudged the curtain aside just enough to peek out. The yard was empty, but my gaze caught something else. Movement in the shadows. Someone was there, watching from the corner of the house, their figure barely visible in the dim light. For a few moments I couldn't move. My eyes were locked on the faint outline of the figure lingering at the edge of the yard. Whoever it was, they weren't just passing by. They were standing still, watching. A shiver ran down my spine as I ducked away from the window, heart pounding in my ears. I grabbed my phone, desperate to call someone, anyone, but my fingers fumbled on the screen. The figure hadn't done anything yet, I told myself, trying to stay rational. Maybe it was just a neighbor, someone taking a walk in the dark. But the knot in my stomach wouldn't go away, and my instincts screamed that this wasn't innocent. I crouched by the couch, debating whether to turn off the lights and pretend I wasn't home. The silence pressed down heavier than before, every creak of the house amplified in my ears. My breathing felt too loud, like it might give me away. Then I heard it, the faint, deliberate sound of footsteps on the side of the house. They weren't hurried. The rhythm was slow and measured, as if the person outside knew they had all the time in the world. I clutched my phone tighter, frantically scrolling to find the emergency call button. Before I could press it, a knock came at the back door. Not the front, where deliveries always arrived, but the back, the entrance that was harder to see from the street. I froze, my thumb hovering over the screen. The knock came again, a little louder this time. "Hello?" A voice called out, muffled by the door. It sounded calm, familiar even, like they were trying to sound polite. "I think you forgot to sign for the package." I didn't reply. My mind raced. There had been no mention of signing when I took the box earlier, and the delivery worker had already left. Or so I thought. I tiptoed to the kitchen, peeking out through the blinds just enough to glimpse the back door. The figure was there, partially illuminated by the porch light. They were still wearing the uniform, but their posture was different now. Stiffer, more deliberate. "I know you're in there," the voice called again, their tone sharper now. The doorknob rattled. My panic surged as I finally pressed the emergency number on my phone. The operator's voice felt like a lifeline as I whispered my address, trying not to let the person outside hear me. "Stay on the line," the dispatcher said, but the figure outside must have sensed something. The rattling stopped, and the footsteps retreated into the night. Minutes later, the sound of sirens filled the air. When the police arrived, they found the box and a set of muddy footprints leading from the back door to the side gate. The uniform the person had worn was fake, and the delivery itself hadn't been scheduled by my parents. After that night, my parents tightened every precaution they could think of. Locks, cameras, the works. The unease lingered. Knowing he could return at any time left me restless. Every noise and shadow a constant reminder that home was no longer safe